What is a skinwalker? They're not cryptids, urban legends, or ghost stories. In Navajo culture, these entities are deeply feared and respected. Skinwalkers are not to be spoken of, as just mentioning their name is thought to draw their attention, a risk very few are willing to take. This silence has led to the lack of knowledge and true stories about these creatures, despite their mainstream popularity, placing them in a truly unique position. Skinwalkers, known as Yenagloshi, in their native tongue, trace their origins back centuries within the Navajo Nation. In ancient times, certain healers would travel to the 4 sacred mountains that mark the borders of the Navajo Nation, 2 in Colorado, 1 in Arizona, and 1 in New Mexico. These practitioners needed to cover vast distances quickly to perform sacred rituals and healing ceremonies. It is said that spiritual guides taught these individuals how to take the form of animals, enabling them to move swiftly across the land. They learned how to transform into creatures like deer, coyotes, and hawks, allowing them to carry out their duties more efficiently. But learning the art of shapeshifting was extremely difficult. It demanded years of dedication, learning the sacred songs, and going through countless ceremonies to earn these divine abilities. However, not all were prepared nor willing to endure such a grueling journey. Some sought quicker, easier paths, and in response to their desires, evil and darkness emerged, answering their prayers, but at a grave price. Their first gruesome demand, the sacrifice of a close family member, a loved one. But this brutal act was only the beginning, the first step down the descent into the void that would consume and corrupt those who chose it, morphing them into evil skinwalkers. For those who ventured down this dark path, their actions marked the betrayal of everything Navajo, twisting the very essence of traditional healing into something defiled and vicious. They engaged in depraved practices and unspeakable rituals, violating everything sacred to the Navajo people. Unlike traditional Navajo healers and medicine men who work to protect and restore harmony with nature, Skinwalkers use their knowledge and power for selfish and evil purposes. Skinwalkers embody anti-Navajo, the perversion of spiritual practices meant to bring balance and harmony. The Navajo Nation itself holds significant spiritual power, much of which is connected to the land, its mountains, and the ceremonies that are tied to the natural world. Skinwalkers are believed to draw their strength from these natural elements, especially within the boundaries of the Navajo Nation. Before shapeshifting, they must kill and skin an animal, decorate its hide with detailed designs and markings, and perform special rituals and ceremonies to prepare the skin, which they then wear to take the form of this very being. Skinwalkers possess unsettling abilities that transcend shapeshifting. They can mimic human voices with unsettling precision, replicating the voices of loved ones or children to lure unsuspecting victims into their grasp. This mimicry is often close, but not perfect, lacking the warmth and natural cadence of a genuine human voice. Skinwalkers are also incredibly fast, with witnesses claiming they've seen them sprinting alongside their speeding vehicles in the dead of night, matching their speed with a chilling ease. In rural areas of the Navajo Nation, where homes are spread far apart, dogs serve as protectors, alerting families to potential danger. However, Skinwalkers are known to silence these guard dogs using bone whistles and powders, allowing them to move unnoticed. Their weapons are made from natural elements, such as bone knives, darts, and powders made from human remains exhumed from graves. These tools are used to spread sickness, paralysis, and even death. To protect against skinwalkers, traditional ceremonial objects such as ash and cedar are used. These items hold spiritual significance and are incorporated into rituals designed to ward off malevolent forces. Maintaining vigilance and respect for spiritual traditions is crucial for safeguarding one's home and family against harmful influences. Even today, skinwalkers remain a profound taboo within Navajo culture and belief. Stories passed down through generations, emphasizing that skinwalkers are not merely a myth, but entities that continue to exist in the modern day. Now, let's hear a rare, authentic skinwalker story from the Tape Library.
This story comes from the book Some Kind of Power by Margaret K. Brady, who collected first-hand accounts of skinwalker tales from Navajo children. It follows a family, a father, mother, daughter, young son, and a baby boy, who lived isolated in the Utah wilderness. When they needed essentials, they would make the long half-day journey to the trading post, something they had done many times before. One day, the parents and daughter headed off for supplies, leaving the young son to care for his baby brother. Although a tough task for someone his age, he had always proven to be responsible. Plus, he invited a friend over to help. The day passed smoothly. The baby fussed now and then, but a little food and play calmed him down. By sunset, he was peacefully asleep. As twilight fell and the house grew eerily quiet, the boys heard scratching at the window. Startled, they looked outside. Nothing. Minutes later, a soft knock sounded at the door. Cautiously, they opened it. Again, nothing. They tried to shrug it off, locking the door and turning their attention elsewhere. Just as the tension eased, a thunderous pounding erupted at the door, each hit growing louder and more aggressive, rattling its hinges. This was no polite knocking. This was an attack. Someone was trying to force their way inside. Terrified, the friends scrambled out a back window and climbed onto the roof, but the boy, frozen in fear, crawled under the bed, squeezing his eyes shut, praying this nightmare would end. The pounding intensified, mixing with the baby's now frantic cries from the bed he was hiding under. In his panic, he had forgotten his baby brother. Now paralyzed, the boy couldn't bring himself to move. And then suddenly, everything went quiet. Silence filled the room, stretching on as he lay hidden, still too afraid to check on his brother. He remained frozen under the bed, each second stretching out, feeling like hours. Then, another knock broke the silence, this time soft and familiar. His father's voice called out, asking to be let inside. Heart racing, he pressed his ear to the door and heard his mother and sister's voice as well, so he hesitantly unlocked it. But the relief was short-lived. The moment his father stepped in, he let out a blood-curdling scream. Slowly the boy turned around. There lay his baby brother, in a pool of blood, his tiny head missing. Through his shock and horror, the boy tried to explain the events, the pounding, the terror, the silence, but he insisted he hadn't heard anyone enter the house. Hearing this, his father went outside and found a blood trail leading away from their home, determined to catch whoever, or whatever, was responsible. He gathered his friends from town for a hunt. They followed the trail into the night, but it wasn't long before the blood vanished, leaving only footprints. Oddly, they seemed to change as they tracked them, first human, and then eventually morphing into the prints of a large wolf. After a few miles, just when the prints seemed to vanish, a faint glow appeared in the distance. A lonely house, standing still and silent in the night. The group exchanged uneasy glances. With weapons drawn, they approached the house and knocked. A large, tense silence followed. Just as they were about to force their way inside, the door slowly creaked open. An elderly couple stood there in the doorway, greeting them warmly, saying they hadn't seen or heard anything strange, but the father was adamant. He asked if he and his friends could take a look around, and the couple obliged. They searched the property and found nothing. Then, when they went inside the house, one of his friends noticed an old, worn, tattered rug in the corner. Lifting it, he revealed a secret cellar door. The father crept down into the dark, freezing cellar, his breath shallow and his heartbeat pounding in his ears. As his vision adjusted, he froze. A figure lurked in the corner, deathly still, eyes watching him. And as he scanned the cellar further, his stomach dropped. Rows of shelves lined the walls, each bearing several rotting human heads. But it was the two freshest ones directly above the figure's shoulder that made his blood run cold, staring back at him with the faces of his infant son and his son's friend. Without hesitation, the father fired at the figure, but the bullet seemed to have no effect. Right before his eyes, the figure began to shift, twisting and folding in on itself, melting into the ground until it took the form of a fox, and in one swift motion it darted up the stairs and out the door, disappearing into the night. No one caught a good look at its face, and when the father and his friends turned to the elderly couple, they were only met with a suffocating silence, their faces pale and drained. The elderly couple's silence was deafening. They wouldn't or couldn't reveal what they knew, either out of fear of the Skinwalkers' vengeance, or because they were Skinwalkers themselves. Regardless, the tragic death of his son and the gruesome scene found in the basement led him and his friends to judge them guilty of that night's crime. And as they walked back to town, gunshots still echoed in their minds.